especially I think one of the key features I learned in this class is sometimes, yes, the skepticism is good, but sometimes you just need to suspend belief for a little bit and just do it.
Yeah.
And just do it and keep doing it, and then something will happen.
Yeah.
Because what's really interesting is everyone else around you also has that skepticism, so they're not doing it. But
That's
if
right.
you just do it and you put yourself out there, you might look like an idiot, but it might also like open up the sorts of opportunities that no one else is trying for.
Yep.
It's a huge competitive advantage.
Yep.
Let's make you $1 billion. Let's make me $1 billion more.
I registered quickly for the class. We showed up the first day, and you started talking about books. And so I'm looking at my co-founder, and he's looking at me, and we're both really, really...
Are we in the right place?
Yeah, exactly. This was something that was like just another project that I would then have to add on.
Yeah.
But in the end of the day, I've always wanted to be an author, so...
Yeah.
No.
But do you find that like the fact that you're also an author working on the space that sort of has helped you overcome some of that skepticism? Or I guess because like they're different, right? But they're complementary. Have you seen that sort of change the way people engage with you?
No, 100%. And I think that's sort of the premise of the class, right? It's like this idea of, you create your own signal, and that adds credibility to the other things that you do.
Yeah.
And so I found that maybe not necessarily in terms of like pitching to restaurants or things like that, but they'll look me up on Facebook and stuff afterwards, and they see, oh, he's working on a book.
Yeah.
Or generally, like you said, I mean, when you're reaching out to the types of people who've worked in this space before and saying you're with a book, as opposed to trying to reach out with them and saying, oh, I'm a college kid, I'm working on a startup, it's a radically different experience in terms of the amount of feedback you can get. And so in that sense, I think it's been a massive help in terms of creating that signal that you've been talking about. And I think to your point, the frame that you're coming from when you like try to interact with these sorts of people, experts in the field, is radically different when you're an author, because they perceive you as giving value to them, asking for their opinion and, codifying that into a book, which actually like adds to their signal in a certain sense. I mean, it's not a big book, but still it's something.
Yeah.
Versus when you're coming in as a startup, it seems more like a taking value sort of situation. So that's radically different in the way they perceive what you're asking and what you're asking for. And even if it's like the same questions, just the change in frame changes everything in terms of the interaction.
Yeah.
And is not even in the startup. I think there are a lot of like life skills that you pick up writing a book that are super helpful. Like, I mean, we were talking about, reaching out via social media to all these sorts of people. I had no idea that was something that was possible. That you can like just connect with these high profile
Your face
people.
when I, by the way, said it, when I was like, all right, here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna go send these videos, and you're gonna basically record video of yourself, like telling these people like, hey, why you want to be in your book. And I remember you looked at me and you sort of gave me like the side eye, like, what? Like, come on now, like this is, and I think, and rightfully so, right? Like, do I want my brand out there saying that? And yet, go ahead and tell the story.
Yes, it's actually really funny. I mean, like you mentioned, I have had some skepticism.
Healthy skepticism, not a bad way. It's a good way. Yeah.
Right.
Always making sure, hey, is this just some dumb idea, or is there actually sort of like some logic behind it? And so what I also would tell you in a positive way is that level of healthy skepticism forces me to make sure I provide you evidence and insight to say like, hey, I'm not just doing this because it's like, I want to make you look like an idiot, or because you can't, or because you will, but I want you to do it because I think this is the thought behind it.
The premise of this class is you're trying to create your own signal.
Yep.
But it's very interesting that the way you do that is kind of, you plant these seeds from other people's signals, and then it blossoms into a tree with its own signal. And that's the sort of, connection that maybe later down the line might be helpful with my startup too, because it's a similar space, and there's definitely synergies there. So in all sorts of ways, like it paid off in a massive way for like a very small amount of effort. The only thing it really took was the courage to just put it out there, and it paid off in a really, really big way.
I think the same has sort of happened for me, in that I am to some degree basically helping you elevate your signal, planting seeds in that way, and that in some ways aggregation of those signals is benefiting my signal, right, in a really weird sort of way. I mean, I never set out to have it happen that way, but it's one of those things. So my wife asked me this question. She goes, why are you so focused on helping these authors publish? Because what I'd tell you is, and you know this, right, like I want everyone that starts a book, I'll do everything I can to help them publish it, as long as it's going to help them and do those sorts of things, right? And whereas in traditional like education, it's like whatever, it's up to them, it's their responsibility. But I don't feel that way, and part of it is because I think I just know the benefit of it, right? Like, I mean, I know the fact that it'll have huge impacts if you just trust the process. But the second part of it, though, is exactly what you caught on. Is I think that it flywheels, like, I get benefit from it, and I would never do it because of it, and I didn't sort of actually ever think of it that way. But the backside of like doing something authentic for other people is that then it benefits you in the same way.
Right.
So
and also to the earlier point about the give and take, I think one of the primary reasons it is seen as a give as opposed to a take is because there aren't that many authors in college. There's a ton of entrepreneurs. I mean, or there's a ton of aspiring entrepreneurs who are trying to take value in that way. And so to your point, I think we're building a network here.
Exactly.
And it's beyond just Georgetown, obviously. Like you mentioned, I mean, there's authors from all over.
Yeah.
And I think it's culminating in a really, really special way. And I'm really excited to see where this goes.